Okay.
All right, perfect. And Kim and Michael, good to see you guys here as well. I didn't know if it would just be the two of us or if anybody else. I didn't really promote it or tell many people. Just in the thread, I threw the link just in case anybody wanted to join us. So, all right,
Great.
talk to me a little bit. Talk to me a little bit. You just found the whiteboard or you've been using it, just haven't been able to figure out how to do the transaction summary, or you're just really starting from scratch with it?
So I discovered it probably about a month ago.
Okay.
I've been doing some TC work for about a year, and I'm still trying to build out my processes, my task list,
Okay.
exploring some software, and then I came across your whiteboard.
Okay.
And so far, it's been amazing to just keep track of everything that I have under contract all at once in one place. Um, but I want to be able to create the summary sheet to give to title, lending, the agents, just so everyone has everything on in one place.
Yep.
And I'm just struggling trying to populate the information to get the summary sheet at all.
Yep. And it may be easier than what you think. So I'm hoping today won't be that difficult. But we'll
Okay,
record this and then we'll post it up on YouTube. So if you need to rewatch it a few times or
sure,
anything else
sure.
like
Sounds
that.
good.
All right.
Okay.
So for those that are unfamiliar that are joining us or going to watch this on video, basically what we are talking about, if this is our transaction summary, I'm sorry, if this is our virtual whiteboard, so this is where the transactions would be. So let's just say that I'm going to use an example. I don't know. Let's just use this particular transaction on line 7 here. Okay. So what she's trying to do is make sure that all of the information that she has in this particular transaction is populated onto her summary sheet. Now, the very first thing I'm going to say is before we go into how to make everything populate is always remember that one of the most important things to move from transaction to transaction is in your bottom right-hand corner. Whatever transaction that you are on, you just put that number of the row right there, okay? So now what I'm going to do is go back and let's look at the whiteboard. So I had said let's do line 7, okay? So if I go ahead and change this to 7, what it'll do is pull everything from that specific transaction. So any transaction I want to pull, all I have to do is just look at it and say, okay, so I want to do the transaction summary for 11. Okay. The reason why that's important is due to this, and I'll show you how it all changes and everything else like that. The reason why is because the way that I use a transaction summary sheet, I don't always keep things in order. So what might be 11 right now may not be 11 30 seconds from now, because say I may go over and say, okay, so what is complete versus what is not complete in this? And I'm going to go ahead and say organize A to Z, put all likes together. Here's all my completes. I got nothing to do with those. And now I'm only worried about these. Well, whatever address was in 11 before no longer is in 11. Okay. So because that changes all the time, that's how you move from transaction to transaction. Okay. Now, so
Mhm.
there's nothing for you to do with that particular box other than when you're ready for it to change this information, put the appropriate transaction in there. That's why we don't go by addresses and everything else like that. We can just do whatever line number we're in. Now, what I have is I'm going to quick share with you guys. Let me move my bar because I can't seem to see everything the way my screen is set up here. Okay, so if you take a look at this particular graphic right here, it's as simple as these 4 steps. Now, this first one is going to be very important based on what you told me, okay? So you went ahead and you found this about a month ago, and you're still trying to dial in your task list. When you look at a virtual whiteboard, it is basically your task list, but rather than being from top to bottom, it's left to right, okay?
Right.
So where a lot of people have a problem is they will go ahead and they'll put what they think their task list is going to be or their virtual whiteboard tasks. And then they go ahead and they sync that up to their transaction summary. And then I don't care if it's a day later, a month later, a year later, they change their task list a little bit. And it messes up all their formulas also on their transaction summary.
That's what's happening.
All right, perfect. So I'm saying all the common things that I see happen just to see what I'm getting back from you so that I can see what some of the problems are. But here's the nice thing for you. Did you notice I didn't even ask you any questions and I'm already finding out what some of your problems are because these are the same
Yes.
problems everybody else has, okay?
Yes.
So there are going to be answers to all of these. So the very
Okay.
first part, before you ever even think about a transaction summary, literally before anybody thinks about a transaction summary is you want to make sure that your task list is as closely built out or finalized as possible. Okay. Now, even if you did that perfect, what happens if something changes next year and then you have to change that task list? It still messes up your formulas. Okay.
Right.
So an advanced tip is going to be this. So let me just quick show you one advanced tip, and we will get into how to do all of this, but I already know where some of the general problems are, so I'm just going to bring them up. Most people that use this transaction summary know that the way that I think of a transaction, if I have 50 to 100 tasks, that sounds overwhelming to me, so I don't think that way. I think if I have 100 tasks, I really don't. I basically have 5 different stages of the transaction. So I have the opening process, I've got the inspection process, I've got the title and finance section, I have the pre-close, and I have the post-close. So when I take a look at a task list, even if it was top to bottom versus left to right, I still break those 100 tasks into sections that they typically fall in. So the first section here is my opening process, okay? Now, it's blue. The next set of tasks are part of that inspection, so on and so forth, okay? Notice that each one is grouped together and each one is color-coded. Here's the first recommendation I'm going to give you. Now, some people won't like this next answer, and I apologize. I'm here to teach about the virtual whiteboard, not how to build spreadsheets. This is not an Excel or a Google Sheets class, but it's not that difficult. So for people that literally are completely unfamiliar with spreadsheets, how to edit them, what to do, this just might not be the right tool. But if you're me, I'm going to get a little geeky and be annoyed that I don't know, and I'm just going to go figure it out, okay? Most of these things on spreadsheets are not that hard to figure out. So here's what I do. Because I break this into 5 sections, I know that from time to time, I may change my process. And if I add one column in here, insert, add one column to the right, that messes up every formula to the right of that. Okay.
Okay.
Well, then I would use my common sense and say, I believe that nothing stays the same forever. And I would probably add anywhere from 5 to 10 blank columns here. And anybody who knows how to work with these spreadsheets, you can highlight a number of columns. Now, right now, these are filled in, but let's say that this was 5 or 6 blank columns. Then you can actually hide those columns. And what it does is it takes all those columns and boom, you don't even see that they're there. So each section, I actually add a couple blank columns in there just so I have space for growth. So now,
Okay.
if I expand those columns and I want to add that column, then I just highlight the other ones that I'm not using and I shrink those again. And I just add
Okay.
one column. Do you see how much that solves all of our future problems?
Yes.
Okay. So if
Okay.
you don't do that, it's fine. That just sounds like a lot of work to me because now I got to go back and remap every single one of my formulas. Okay. So what I
Okay.
do is I just will go ahead and I usually do it right before the notes section here. I'll just add a couple more columns and then I just hide them. Okay. And
Okay.
like I said, I'm not here to teach everything that there is about spreadsheets, but both in Excel and in Google Sheets, which are probably the 2 most common spreadsheets that most people use. Both of them have a hide feature. Okay, so some people have actually taken this and uploaded this into Excel rather than Google Sheets. Anybody who's listening to it on that, same thing, same concept. Okay, so that's the first thing that I would do. So what's the next thing? So notice that the first step is make sure that you're at least comfortable with all the tasks that you have. And then the advanced tip would just be add a couple blank columns in there just for future reference. What you don't know is what you don't know. You have no idea what you don't know and how your system might change down the road.
Exactly.
And that's fine. By the way, the other thing is opposite too. You may take something away and say, I no longer want to provide that task or that service to the agents. Where for years, maybe I would write amendments. Then I take that away and I decide, okay, I'll do everything for the agents other than two things. I will not negotiate and I will not draft documents. Okay, so I'm going to take that column away. All I have to do is highlight it and delete that column, and then I just leave it as one of my blanks and I just hide it.
Okay. Okay. So I
Okay.
think the issue has been I've just deleted things that don't apply to me, and now we can't figure out the summary sheet.
Yep, exactly. So notice that we just came up with two things. Number one, if we add something later, everything to the right of that messes up all your formulas. Okay,
Right.
so put some buffer is what some people might call it. Buffer is just a
Okay.
couple extra columns and then hide them. Second thing is if you ever change your service and you take something away, go ahead and you can just delete that and you can just hide it. Okay,
Gotcha.
so that's
Makes
two
sense.
things. So sounds like that is already helping part of the problem.
Yes.
Second thing for others is going to be this: build out and finalize what you want to include on the summary. So this summary is not meant to be used as I have it. It is just an idea. It's just suggestions. So notice this. If I click on purchase price, what shows up here is whatever in that cell, correct? In fact, I'll
Mhm.
make this a little bigger so people can see. Whatever is in this cell is whatever I have typed in there. Let's go to the next cell. Notice that the next cell is a formula.
Mhm.
Okay. So what you get to do in every single one of these cells, okay, all of these cells, you get to determine what are the actual things that you want to show up on your transaction summary sheet. Now, some people would say, but I don't want the purchase price there. I want the purchase price here. Okay, fine. Put purchase price. Okay. I really don't care what you want where. Move it around. But somewhere on that spreadsheet, on the virtual whiteboard, is a purchase price. And so what I
Right.
want, if this is the words, and that's what's showing up here to be very elementary about just kind of spreadsheets, the words that are here are the words that are here. The next column is where the formula is, or the next cell, sorry, is this. See the letter O right there?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it says whiteboard exclamation point O. Now, because I'm not going to go into how to design and build a formula, I'm just going to show you the one letter you've got to change. Okay.
Okay.
So if I am on, let's say, what property? 11. Let's just say on your virtual whiteboard, you want to put price in anywhere. Okay. Or let's just say, since I've already got it, let's do address. So I've got address. Okay. So let's go back to summary and we want, say this was just address. I can't spell. Okay, if I want the address there, notice how it says complete. I'll go to, I don't know, third one on my list. Notice it still says address is complete. Well, that's not what I want. I want 123 Main Street to show up in there, okay?
Right.
So what it's telling me in this particular cell in the formula that it's pulling from column O.
Okay.
If I go to here, go down to O, notice what's in 3, complete.
Okay.
What column is the address in? It's in
A.
A.
Mm-hmm.
So I come over here, and all I'd have to do, notice the address is there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. So,
Okay.
so everybody wants to know how to change these formulas. And that's getting the cart before the horse.
Right, right.
The first part is determine what do you even want on your transaction summary? Because I
Mhm.
can have a half a dozen different transaction coordinators and they all want different things on their transaction summary. So
Exactly.
build this out the way that you want it, and then all you have to do on the formula is determine what row is that.
Okay.
And all I do is I go up and I change one letter.
Well, that helps.
Isn't that easier than it sounds?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So let's kind of go through a few of these things here again, just so that everybody's on the same page. The first thing is you want to build out your transaction, I'll call it a task list. But my opinion, assume that at some point, whether things get added or taken away, it's going to change. It just
Hmm.
is. Okay.
Right.
Or it should. Okay. Because we're always trying to be better than we were prior. Okay. Now, some people say, you said taking away services, but you also said everybody, better. No, sometimes taking away is better.
Is
Okay.
better. Right, right.
Okay, that can bring real clarity sometimes too. So adding or taking away, all I'm doing is I'm making sure that I have that buffer in there. And then if I take something away, I can just hide that column.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Second thing is, don't worry about making things populate on the transaction summary yet. That's going 2 steps too far. First, determine what do you even want on your transaction summary?
Hmm.
Build that out. Don't worry about the formulas yet. Only build out what would I want to show up on my transaction summary. You may delete half that stuff. You may change half that stuff.
Hmm.
Just like you have to build your task list first, you have to build out what do you want on the transaction summary. Now, once you have what you want, then go over to the next cell and you'll notice that it's no longer words. It looks blank on your transaction summary, but if you look up above, it will give you the formula. And there's only one letter you need to change literally to make that formula work. That's beautiful.
That's great.
So
Yes.
simple. So simple, okay?
Yeah.
So now I'm going to give you the next advanced tip. Okay. Next advanced tip is this. Let's say you get all of that done. You have your task list pretty much where you want it to be. You've got some built-in extra wiggle room. Okay. And then from there, you really built out your transaction summary to be laid out and include just the information that you want. And then the last step is that you fixed all the formulas so it aligns with your whiteboard.
Right.
Most
Okay.
people can just walk away from this video right now, and that's enough. That's done. Now, for me, that wasn't enough. Okay. I like to take a couple extra steps, is going to be this. I usually will do 3 transaction summary sheets for
Okay.
pretty much every transaction. Now, that's going to be overkill for most people, and that's fine. We all just work different. I break up, just like I break up my transaction into 5 parts or 5 stages, I also
Mhm.
break the parties up as well. So I break them up into 3 separate parties, and I call them our team, their team, and our customer. And I have a different transaction summary sheet for each one of them.
Okay.
I'll tell you the difference between the 3, but here's how you make it. Get the first one done correctly. Okay? Then all I
Hmm.
do, now this one is not done correctly at this point. We need to edit this, but just to use this one as an example, for those that are not familiar, again, sorry, not a full-on spreadsheet tutorial here, but very simple action is you go down to this arrow down here, and if you're not in Google Sheets, you're in Excel, they have a similar feature, okay? You just click duplicate. It literally would take this entire page and it would put it right next to it. In fact, I'm going to do it. This is a live tool for our students and stuff, so I'm going to change it back in a second. But notice that what it did is it's summary sheet, copy of summary sheet. All I would do is go down here and rename them. Summary, our team. Then it would be summary, their team. Summary, our customer, okay? Let me quick undo this just in case I'm messing up anybody that's in it. Because all these changes are happening in real time in front of their face, and I'm sure people are confused that don't know this
Oh,
video
no.
done. So anyways, now that you know that those three exist, then what I will do is I determine what do I want to share with our team, what do I want to share with their team, and what do I want to share with our client. Now,
Okay.
I'm not maybe like every other transaction coordinator where I think it's probably more common that the average transaction coordinator is dealing with all their customers are in one state. That would probably be most common, okay? So I was doing transactions in Minnesota, New York, Louisiana, Pennsylvania, Florida, I mean, so on and so forth, okay? And each one of those states, I would say 85% of what happens is identical, okay? Might be in different places on the contract, but the process is pretty much similar.
Sure.
But in Minnesota, we don't share contact information of our client with the other side.
Right.
We don't share what commissions are being made and what splits are and everything else like that with the other side. And we don't even
Right.
share those splits with the customer. Okay. So there's information that we want to keep private. And so what I do then is I'll go ahead and let's just say, and I also speak differently to the other team of professionals, such as the other agent, the lender, the closer, blah, 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 than I would a customer.
Right. Right.
There's certain things that if I said it the same way to the customer, it wouldn't mean anything to them. It'd be confusing. Okay. Bring up more questions than are needed. So then what I do is when I've copied that summary report, I go ahead and say, okay, so this is the one for our team. It includes everything that I need. Then the one for their team, what's one given I'm going to delete in Minnesota? I'm going to delete my customer's contact information that was on our teams so that all of our team knows how to contact our customer. Our closers, our lenders, everybody knows how to contact our customer. But on their team, there's not a chance under God's green earth I'm leaving that on there. So I get rid of that.
Right. Right.
Okay. Now I also have to tell my closers and my title people in Minnesota, what are the commission splits? Okay. And do I have admin fees? And do I, all these other different types of breakdown? I don't need to share every aspect of that with the other team. So that gets removed. Okay.
Okay.
So that would just be some examples. Okay. Now, the other
Sure.
thing for our client, I'm going to remove anything that deals with commissions. Okay.
Right.
And I'm probably going to remove, this is just my personal preference, I'm going to remove all of the contact information for the other team's professionals, such as their closer, their agent, their whatever, their lender. All I have to have is one buyer that is just a control freak, and he wants to pick up the phone and call they're selling a home.
Sure.
They want to call the buyer's lender and say, how we doing? Okay.
Right.
I'm not going to be having that happening. Okay. So once I go ahead and I edit those, they're edited permanently. Now the only thing that I'm changing is the number on the bottom. And it pulls what I need. So what did I do on those other two? I just deleted some cells.
Right. Right.
Okay,
Okay.
I'll do it real quick, but then I'm going to undo it real quick. Is if I delete this cell because the information is up here, it won't pull that information anymore. I'll just get rid of that whole line and put something else there, okay? Or nothing. Quick, put it back.
Okay.
Screw everybody up, okay? So that would be how I could have three of those. Then if I want to, I can go ahead and I print this as a PDF.
Right. Okay.
Okay. Did this help?
Oh, tremendously.
Okay. Okay. So let's see if I missed anything else on here. So basically the 4 steps: build out your task list. Advanced tip, assume it will change. Leave room, or if you delete things, just hide columns, period. Then build out and finalize even what you want included on your summary sheet. Don't make copies of that yet for the other summary sheets you're going to do. Then get all of the actual formulas taken care of, which is literally just changing one letter, which is the column. There's nothing real
Right.
high tech about it. Okay.
Right. Right.
And if you want, then you can make copies and do their team, our customer, that type of thing. Okay.
Mhm.
And then the last thing is just go down to the bottom right-hand corner, change the number.
So much easier than I thought.
Yeah, I wish I could say I was smarter than all of this. This is all pretty basic and everything else like that. But
Mhm.
I do like it that way too. It's even if someone doesn't 100% understand everything that there is about building spreadsheets and editing them and stuff, as long as they took a template that was already pre-done for them, I'm hoping with these 4 steps,
Yeah,
they should be able to kind of get where they want to go with it.
I would think so. Yeah. I
Okay.
mean, just in this time with you, I think I got what I need.
Okay, cool.
So,
Any other questions or anybody else that's on the call? If you have any questions, I'm more than happy to stick around for a couple minutes, answer other questions. Um, but that's basically all I got. Kimberly,
David?
Michael,
Yes,
anything?
I do have a quick question.
Go for
From
it.
the summary sheet, how
Yes.
do you share that with your different people? Can you do that automatically, or
I
do you
do
have to
not.
share it?
No,
Okay.
I do not. So basically what I did is you saw that I clicked the print button
Mm-hmm.
and I save it as a PDF.
Okay.
Okay. And what I do, this is me personally, I like to keep my emails. Okay, now I like to keep my emails shorter. When I was younger in this business, man, I'd write you a book as to everything that's going on in a transaction. Nobody read that stuff.
Nobody
So my
reads it.
emails are actually shorter and all of the details are included in a PDF attachment. And so when I email them, hey, we have a new transaction, I'm including all the docs anyways, copies of the docs, and then I also include a transaction summary. Now, the other reason why I started that, it made all my emails shorter because my emails literally was the transaction summary. And
Right.
there are some people that will format their transaction summary, and I can't quite speak to this and go to this because I don't like doing it anymore, is they would actually cut, copy, and paste their entire transaction summary and just paste it in their intro email. I'm not a fan of that, and it's because I think we get tied up as to what it looks like in our email, and we're less receptive to understanding that that's not necessarily what it looks like when they receive it. Sometimes it's blown out of proportion, it's unreadable. It just depends on how it gets filtered through and what servers service
Got it.
and stuff like that. So I do it as a PDF attachment. Um, that's how I do it. The reason why I really went with that was also because of this. An average agent, and I'm going to say I'll preface that. Average producing agent, okay, not average agent. The average agent may not even have a transaction going on at one time, okay? But an average producing agent, if they're going to close 2 to 4 transactions per month, that means that they might have a pipeline of 4 to 10 transactions all kind of working. Okay. And what we decided to do is give them a cheat sheet that they could just print out. One sheet that tells them 99% of every freaking thing they need to know about their transaction, all the contact information, all of the important milestone dates, everything. And what we're doing is the agents, they don't even need their computer anymore. They would literally just print that sheet, and that sheet is very purposely always going to be one page, which makes the backside blank. So they could carry almost their entire business, whether they have access to their files or not, whether they have their computer or not, because we all know this. They may not be able to access all their files via computer in their car, but they could, if they were really tech savvy, do it on their phone. But most of them hate it and they don't do it anyways. They just call and say, what's the deal? Okay. So what we do is they could have 4, 5, 6 sheets of paper and it's blank on the back. And that's just where they're taking notes and stuff like that. So they literally, if I saw them in the office, they could show me their 6 pieces of paper and I know that's literally their whole business. And so it was nice to give them a cheat sheet and everything, and it just turned out to work so well. Now, last thing I would say when you are doing your transaction summary sheets, do things change from time to time in a transaction? Yes. Okay. But if everything that could change is also on your whiteboard and you put that change on the whiteboard, when you put that number in to pull up the right transaction summary sheet, doesn't it kind of automatically update everything? And so anytime I wanted to, if I wanted to send them an updated transaction summary sheet, I actually could. And I just send it to them as a PDF. So yeah, we just got used to using it as a PDF, and it is just a spreadsheet. So you're not really probably going to have a lot of that automation going right to them. Last thing that I will say, and unless you guys ask me more questions about this, I will try not to go too deep into this because this will get real geeky, but you can do what's called pivot tables. Okay. So we had 64 agents that we were tracking all of these transactions for. So I usually had 100 transactions going simultaneously. So what we had were 64 agents across 5 states. So we had a pivot table for every agent. You only need to set this up once per agent. And what the pivot table would do is it would automatically, I would automate. I don't do anything, okay, ever, okay? I'm lazy. I'm ambitiously lazy, okay? Is what it would do is we determine what we want the report to show them about anything that we wanted to show them. What is every question that they possibly could call and ask me? What's the status on the appraisal? I forgot we changed the price. What's the price? What's the closing date? What's this? What's the status on this? Everything that there's a status on the whiteboard that I know that they would ask me. If I have 100 tasks, they don't ask me about 100 things. They got about a dozen to 15 common things that they ask about. So we created that report as a pivot table and just assign it to an agent. So what it does, every agent has their own pivot table. So we could actually, there's a way to give them a view where they actually can see that pivot table. So to answer your question, the automation and all that other kind of stuff, I can automate a view for them so that anytime that now, some of you would say if you do what I'm about to tell you, you're going to get fired. I wasn't getting fired over this. This is just the way that we set it up. And if they didn't like it, they didn't have to, work with us type thing or be on our team. Is they could call and say, hey, I need an update on this, this, and this. We already had pre-templated text messages that I could reply back to them. I had one for each agent. Okay. Cut, copy, paste. I don't write to them. Okay. Copy, paste. Hey, awesome to hear from you. You're the best in the business. And I always used to tell them, don't take that personally. This is a template. And then usually laugh, and stuff like that. But you're the best in the business. And here's your direct link to your reporting.
Okay.
I'm not updating.
I'll have to learn about that.
Okay, so pivot tables is a way that you can do individual reports, and then you get to determine, what they have view of and all those types of things. So we did that, and that was real helpful. And what ends up self-correcting itself is usually if they call you for an update on this and you send that, and they just click on it and they can see their updates, they're going to email or text you again a couple days later. You send the same template. By the third time, I'm not getting those questions anymore. If I get another text after the third time, it's usually more of this. David, they're not even asking me for an update, by the way. Notice the difference on this. David, I think I forgot my link for my report. Could you just send that link over? They didn't even ask me for an update. Okay. So it ends up being that. And we had a way that they had a spreadsheet with all of their links to and their tools and their resources and stuff. So they didn't even have to ask us that after a while. So anyways, those are more advanced things that you can take a look at.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Other questions? Anybody?
I think you covered everything I needed for today.
All right. You guys are awesome. Have a great day. I will go ahead. Hopefully by tomorrow, at the end of the day, I'll get this up on YouTube as well. Okay.
Great. Thank you,
Thanks.
David.
See you guys.
All
Bye-bye.
right. Bye.